So these are going to be the next 3 tools I'm going to be using for the next 30 minutes or so as I measure all 48 valves on this engine.
There was evidence of just a little bit of seepage right about in this area. This is the flywheel. There is a good amount of hot spotting.
Found some, I guess, shipping damage on these clutches. I ain't going nowhere. You guys want to pull it together? Hey everyone, and welcome back to DC Motorwerks. It is day 2 of Lambo Lunacy, and you can see we've made some progress off camera here. There's a lot of disassembly that happened here. We've got the intake over there, the valve covers, the front timing covers. You can also see the transmission is removed at this point. And we have now affixed our factory Lamborghini tool. This is the official Lamborghini tool to turn the engine over. So we can check the valve clearance and see if we're going to need to get some shims and remove the cams out of this engine. We've also, of course, got the clutch out here. And much to my surprise, it's actually in pretty good shape. So we're not even close to the rivets. I'm actually got to commend Mr. Bolian, as this is probably the cleanest and least heat-scorched flywheel and pressure plate that I've seen in one of these. Usually you'll see kind of these blue spots. This is smooth heat. A lot of times you'll see like big blue spots. Those are concentrated heat spots that you do not want to see. And same here on the pressure plate. No real bluing or anything that it's shown to have been overheated. So you can see that with Mr. Bolian's 9 of these that he's had over the years that he knows how to drive them. So next step, like I said, I'm going to go to each of the 48 valves and measure the valve clearance. But before we do that, why don't we check in on Mr. Eugenio and see how he's doing on the Narrow Nemesis car. Evan, how's it going over here?
It's going pretty well. About to remove the clutch off this thing and we'll see damage done, but if it's looking like that.
So I'm still ahead.
You are on par, yes.
Yeah, I see you've removed the alternator and the belt tensioner and a few other things that I have not done yet. But again, I beat you to the special tool.
That you have. We only have one.
I also have the feeler gauges, so I'll probably beat you to that too.
It's a team effort at this shop.
All right, I'll circle back in a few minutes.
Okay.
So these are going to be the next 3 tools I'm going to be using for the next 30 minutes or so as I measure all 48 valves on this engine. So this is actually the factory Lamborghini tool in order to spin over the engine. And I've got this template here in order to write down all of my measurements because 48 measurements is a lot to keep up with. And this is the actual diagram of this engine. So what I'll do is measure each intake and exhaust valve and write that down and discuss with Mr. Bolian of what is next to get this up to par.
All right, guys, so I'm still trying to keep up with Cameron. He is kind of hogging the single man use tools at the moment. So I'm just trying to do what I can in the meantime. I've got the new crank seal installed. There was evidence of just a little bit of seepage right about in this area, but I've already cleaned it off, so you can't really tell that at this point. But I'm not gonna have a rear main seal leak any further. And I do have some hot spotting on the flywheel over here. So this is the flywheel, and as you can see, there is a good amount of hot spotting that Cameron's higher mileage car did not have. And that's why mileage varies when it comes to your clutch life, because it's all down to the driver. All right, guys, as soon as Cameron's finished up, I'll try to take back the lead and see how we go.
Andy's a little bit behind us on the Diablo, but he's hard at work still, so he's catching up. But now comes the very exciting part of ordering all the additional parts and surprises that we have found. But unfortunately, we have ran into quite the timeline dilemma right over here on the parts table. So you see there are a lot of new parts on this table, but most importantly here are the clutch kits. Lamborghini does package these very well. You can see they come in this nice crate here with the Lamborghini script on it. But one thing we always like to do here at DC Motorwerks is inspect our parts. And the timeline of this kind of worked to the point that we had these parts right as the cars showed up, due to the kind of lessening the blow of trying to get these done in a timely manner. But we found some, I guess, shipping damage on these clutches. And because of their cost and how much labor is involved and so forth, it was a calculated decision to get different ones. Because on a car like this, you do not want to take any chances. So now we have to wait for a new clutch kit to come from Italy. So now I have to make the difficult phone call of calling Mr. Bolian and telling him that he's unfortunately not going to get his favorite cars back in the timely manner that we had originally planned. So we finally got our replacement clutches that we weren't quite happy with some what looked like some shipping damage on the original ones. So these are supposed to have been inspected as good. So we're going to do some unboxing videos here. You get to see all of our very exciting Lamborghini tape. And we'll see what these look like. It is a little different than the usual method of transport we're used to in these. They usually come in that wooden crate that you may have seen in one of the other episodes. That's one, and this should be one of our clutch discs, which it is. I like to be careful and check these out as well. Sometimes the friction material can get damaged in transport. Looks like a clutch. You can see the manufacturer Vallejo there on the, that's how you know it hasn't been installed before, or at least one of the ways. So that looks good. Need to get a quick tool to take apart the pressure plate here. Quick 5mm Allen. Try to do these in an alternating pattern because you are affecting your springs here on the pressure plate. At least when the clutch is installed, which it's not currently. But there we go. That looks much better. Show y'all what I'm looking at here. Just want to make sure it's a nice even surface. No gouges or anything like that like we saw in the other ones. So that one looks good. These are a balanced unit, and that's why a lot of these marks are here. And you can see these drilling areas. Those are your balancing areas, so they'll drill out material on the pressure plate here to balance the whole assembly. So you want to make sure it stays clocked in the same place. Just like that. Got one good one. Now let's do it one more time. Make sure that one stays together. That's why the parts cost so much, is because of all this sweet Lamborghini tape. Got our, looks like our packing labels to send back our defective ones. There's one more clutch disc and monster pressure plate and flywheel. It is quite heavy. You can see that they have retaped this to show that they did in fact inspect them, which is good to see. Always be very careful where you're cutting. Also, you don't want to cut into whatever part you are trying to retrieve. Not such a big deal on something hefty as this, but if you're on more delicate materials, at least the packaging is very serious. That clutch goes with this guy. And Andy here going to give a second set of eyes just to be extra sure, because as we've talked about before, you don't want to do this twice. Right, Andy?
Be extra thorough.
Clutch number 2. So far, so good. Yeah, like I said, sometimes you'll see some like scuffing or something on the fibers here, which I don't see here, which is encouraging. Like I said, you can see the imprint there also. 2 for 2 so far. Still has a bunch of machining debris in there.
Yeah, I got a flake in mine.
Yeah.
Doesn't look bad though. No dents.
Both of them look good, so finally get to proceed with the rest of the work. So we're going to get back to valve adjusting, and we can get these things going. So this is what we were looking for, was to get to the valve bucket, because on these 6.5 motors of the Murcielagos, they, instead of like on a 6.2 motor, the shim lived on top of the valve bucket here, but when they went to the 6.5 and the LP cars, they moved it under the bucket. So that lives right in there, and that is what we're looking for. And that measurement is what we're going to use, as we need to increase the valve clearance, because these are a little tight, these 3 exhaust valves right here. So we're going to get our measurements, and then we want to shrink or get the smaller shims for this to correct our valve clearance. So let's see what all our other ones are. And there is some oil friction or surface tension that you kind of will have to fight getting these out. But usually just a little spin in their bore will help you get it out of here.
Kind of break the vacuum seal.
Exactly. And give you a closer shot there. I know I've been just picking them out, but that's the little feller you're looking for there. And just a little magnet, and out she goes. And so we know from my cute little clipboard that is on my roll cart there that these are at about 40 thousandths, and we want them to be ideally 50, but they will allow 45 to 55, or sorry, not thousandths, millimeters. Used to the normal SAE stuff there, not metric. So, like I said, we're going to shrink these shims a few sizes to get right in that smack dab in the middle, like Mr. Bolian likes, at 50 or 0.50 millimeters. So part of what makes this super exciting and time consuming at the same time is that you don't know what shim is in here until you take it all apart. And from Lamborghini, these shims can be pretty expensive. This little guy all by itself can be about $70 a piece. Some of them are only $10. I don't know why, because it's just the same piece of metal in different sizes. But anyhow, if you don't want to have a bunch of money tied up in inventory of these shims, you have to do like us and see what's in here and then order them once you figure out and subtract or add whatever amount you need to get the correct valve clearance. That's our next step. And then we have to put it all back together and measure it again and make sure that gives us the same result that we want. And then you can consider it done. So I'm gonna get these ordered, but we have to do the same thing on the Verde Draco car and pull a camshaft out of that one as well. So let's get to it.
All right, so we're gonna check basic timing. That's the first step before pulling the cams. You just set the cylinder number 1 at top dead 0. So we're gonna put the flywheel back on. It has an alignment dowel, so we'll always put it in the same place. All right, and then we can mount our special tool so we can turn the crank. We're gonna mount the special tool. All it's used for is turning the crank. It basically gives you a bicycle handlebar because you can't get to the front crank bolt to turn it like you would a normal car. Okay, just want to get that good and snug, nothing crazy. Then we'll set up our dial indicator. So this is the Lamborghini special tool, and what it does is touches the top of the piston here and pushes up and shows us top dead center. So we'll be able to measure the face of the piston when it comes all the way up by how it hits this gauge. Okay, so what we'll do is turn the crank by our special tool and then watch our special tool and see and find 0. Just a second, you'll see the gauge move. Oh, there, that was compression. So we should start getting travel.
So we are here now on the Verde Draco engine to pull the exhaust camshaft on this side out because there are 2 valves on this side that need adjusted. But Andy and I ran into something that kind of caught our interest here, and that is that our timing is not exactly where it's supposed to be. So these are the lock tools for the camshafts. We've got the engine at top dead center, which is verified with our dial indicator here. But these should be a good bit closer than that. You can see just how much air gap there is there between the locking tool and the other camshaft. So not even close. Whereas on the black car, we were just a fuzz off that we could still make it work.
All right, here we go. I'm watching for my mark to come up to my crankshaft position sensor. So now we've duplicated it again, and we know for sure that that's at top dead center, cylinder 1.
There are lots of gasket surfaces and so forth to clean, as well as just general cleaning of some fluid seepage over the many years. I've also got some brake pads for this car, and I know Evan's got some other parts for the Roadster as well. So remember to stay tuned, like, subscribe, share the video, all that fun stuff. And if you're local to the North Atlanta area or the surrounding states, we'll be happy to have you here. Reach out to us with your V12 Lamborghinis, your older Mercedes. We have the Ford GT, so lots of variety. We hope you all enjoy these videos as much as we enjoy working on all of these cars, and we look forward to seeing you on the next video.